Alright, I'm going to try this again. And, hold on. What's up, guys? I'm doing this commentary for my boy Ethan. He just got After Effects. He wants to know some basic stuff. And I just tried to do this tutorial showing a bunch of stuff, and it ended up being like 30 minutes long. I could talk about this all day. So I'm just going to do the really important stuff that you need to know to navigate through. I'm going to delete all of this because that was from what I just did. And we're going to jump right into it and try to keep this under 10 minutes. When you first open up, you'll have your recent project pane like right here, and you can pick a project that you were working on yesterday or earlier, and it'll open it back up, or you can make a new composition. A cigarette just went out. And when you pick a new composition, what you'll get is this. You can rename it. I never do. It doesn't really matter. Make sure your dimensions are the dimensions of your clip. Or actually, what you need to do, just make it always 1280 by 720. My clips aren't always 1280 by 720. Usually they aren't. They're a little bit smaller. As you know from my gameplay and stuff, the left of the screen right here is always cut out. My dimensions are wrong somehow, but it's not that big of a deal. So if I show you, it's an easy thing to fix. Let's go to Reach and just pick a regular gameplay. And you just want to slide that into your composition, so just drag it here over composition or drag it in the box, either way. So there's your composition. See, it's not 1280 by 720, but that's okay. The best thing to do is go ahead and make your composition, which is this big black square, 1280 by 720. That way, if your video isn't 1280 by 720, all you have to do is take this and drag it to match, and when you render out, it'll render 1280 by 720. So that's the easiest way to do that. So then you just do that. There. That's perfect. You got a toolbar up here that have very useful tools. I always use hotkeys, which means that I use my keyboard to do stuff. I don't ever come click this stuff up here, and I don't ever drop down menus or anything. I actually went on Google and typed in After Effects hotkeys. You can do that. It's very simple. It'll have a list of everything you need to know, and it makes your editing and everything a lot quicker. For instance, this grab key, what it does, first off, this is the selection tool. This is what you'll be using most of the time. It just has this regular mouse. If you click anything else, it'll have an altered mouse. This is a hand, stuff like that. But if you have your selection tool, what that does is it moves the video around in the composition. And you don't want that. You want the video to stay in the composition right here. What you want to use is the grab tool, which moves the entire composition. See, now there's no black showing. If you go back to your select tool, it moves it out of the square. You want it to stay in the square, and you want the whole composition to move if you ever need to move anything. And the way to do that is use the grab tool, but on the keyboard, if you hold down the space bar, it has a little hand, and just keep it held down and move it wherever you want to move it. W on your keyboard will give you the rotation tool, which rotates it. Press Command or Control Z. That's how I keep going back to where it was. It undoes anything that you just did, your most recent action. And so I'm still on the rotate tool. To get back to the selection tool, that's the letter V. That's back to your selection tool. And at any time, you can actually just come up here and hover, and it'll show you. It'll say, you see hand tool, and then H in parentheses. That's the letter on the keyboard that will get you that. So you don't have to worry about that. And then right down here, this is your timeline. It shows you how far in your clip you are, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And if you're doing like keyframes or changes to your clip and it's more precise than, you need to go down to 12 seconds, just press. You can either drag this bar right here, which zooms in on your clip. You can see it, 15 seconds. Now it's broken into 5-second intervals, and then 2-second intervals, 1 second, and then actual frame rates. So this is frame by frame. Or the easiest way would be right next to the number 0, up above your letters, is the minus button, the underscore button, or the same button, and then the plus and the equal sign are the same button. The plus will zoom in and the minus will zoom out. So that's the easiest way to do that. And let's see, cut the clip. To cut clips, sorry, I'm smoking. It's a bad habit, don't do it. Say I just want, you know, here to there. What I do is I'll press Command Shift D, and that cuts this, and say I don't want that, so I'll delete it. And then I wanted to right here, so I Command Shift D again, and then it'll automatically, whenever you cut a clip using Command Shift D, it'll automatically highlight or select the clip that it is made. So whatever the portion after the cursor is, this little time cursor right here. So, you know, the quickest way to do is, if you're done, if you want to, let's Command Control that. So if this is all of your clip that you wanted, and you're going to put a new clip right here, so you're making a montage, quick, just Command Shift D, press delete. It's gone. So that's how you do that. This right here, oh, not that. This right here, this bar right here is your work area. And what that does is that's how you preview your clip. Say you do RAM preview up here, which will give you sound and video. And if you just go in your timeline right here and press the space bar, that'll just show you video. And it'll show a green bar, because as it goes, it'll be in slow motion because it's actually rendering each frame. And then if you go back to the green portion and press play again, it'll show it in regular time. So, but if you go do the RAM preview, which shows you video and audio, it will only RAM preview inside of this work area. So let's zoom in on the clip, and let's say that you wanted to see just the beginning of this clip. Let me drag this in. So right here, your RAM preview, it'll only show you inside of those bars. Oops. So see, it'll render all of this out in the bar. When it gets here, it'll play it right there.
Slayer.
And then it'll repeat because I have it set right there.
Slayer.
That little bar right there means repeat. Or you can say play it, there's an arrow on the left and right, which means play it forwards then backwards.
Slayer.
So it'll play it forward and then play it backwards. Or you can have just play it once, and then once it gets to the end, it'll just stop. And it won't replay it. But I usually keep it on repeat because it helps. And then, you know, if you had a clip that was all the way, your whole composition, what you would want to do is, if you want to preview the whole clip, make sure that's full. And when you render out, make sure this bar right here is covering the whole composition, because it's only going to render what's inside this bar. Another important thing would be this disables if you can see the clip or not, or if you can hear the clip or not. So when you render, you know, you can't see the clip, but you can hear it. You can't hear it, but you can see it. Either way, doesn't matter. You'll figure it out. And then you can change the properties of this clip. You can either drop it down and then transform, which is anchor point, don't worry about that. Position, of course, is where it is in the composition. You can move it around. Command Z that. Scale, how big it is. Command Z, which will always be bigger than 100% if it starts out not 1280 by 720, because if you remember, I had to stretch it to fit the composition. Rotations and opacity. But that is too much for me to have to drop down those two bars, so I use hotkeys. You've got R for rotation. You've got S for scale, makes it bigger, smaller. You have T for opacity, and they couldn't use, oh, what the hell was that? Oops, my bad. And then, what was another one? Position, P, the letter P. So that's where it is in the map. So all of that stuff, really fine and dandy. To cut, of course, I already showed you that. And You have your effects right here. So instead of, if you know what effect you want, but you can't remember, you know, exactly where it is because there's a shitload of effects. Say you want curves and you don't want to drop down all that bar. This is what I always use, you know, say I want curves. So you type in curves, it's the color correction one. Boom, you're done. You have your curves. Here's your box for altering effect settings, your effect controls. That's where it is. You can change, you know, the color correction or whatever. And you want, you know, say Twixtor. You say Twixtor, there's Twixtor. You can drag that on there. I'm not going to do that. And I'm guessing it's getting pretty close to 10 minutes if it already hasn't passed. So that's all I'm going to show you. Maybe I'll show you how to render out. So when you render, make sure that this is covering all that you want to render. So you don't want all this extra space, because if you actually leave this out here with all this extra space, it will render this clip, and then there'll be, let's see, that ends at 11 seconds. See it right here, about 12 seconds, and it goes out to a minute and 15 or something. So it'll actually render over a minute of black screen. So what you want to do is drag to the end of your clip where you want to end, and right click, trim composition to work area, which means the composition, the length of the composition will be as long as the work area. So now it'll render just the clip. So that's all ready, fine and dandy. Go to composition. Actually, I'm only going to render like 4 seconds because I don't need this. So now you have 4 seconds, and you go to make sure this is, you know, your composition is clicked. Go to composition, add to render queue. This will pop up. The output 2 is where it's going to save. So we'll say it's test 1. That's the first one I did. Test 1. I'll just save it to desktop. And lossless, you have to click this. If you go ahead and make your composition 1280 by 720 and then alter your video like I did, stretch it to it, you won't ever need this resize button. And then just make sure you click the audio. If you don't click this audio, it's only going to render video. So make sure that's clicked and you'll have video and audio. It'll come out QuickTime Movie. Press OK. That's fine. You don't ever need to really do this. Best, full, blah blah blah. You don't really ever need to use that, so you should be fine. And then go to render. You have your bar of how much is rendered, and when it finishes, it'll go diddling. It'll go like that, so you'll know it's done. It'll get down here. It shows you what it's rendering, so that's kind of nice. And diddling. There you go. It should be on my desktop. Test 1. And there it is, playing. And the only thing about it is these files, like this one I just did, and it's, what is it? It's 3 seconds long. It's 3 seconds long, but it is 389 megabytes, which is fucking stupid. It's ridiculous. I have to look up why when you render out of After Effects it's such a huge file. It might be a setting that I don't know about, but I need to look it up, because ever since I've gotten this, I've always had to render out, and it's such a humongous file that then I have to compress it, and it'll go back down to like 5 or 10 megabytes, and then I can upload it. So your files are going to be huge. Don't ever upload a file directly out of After Effects unless your settings are different than mine and it doesn't come out huge. Always look at the length of the file, and if it's laggy like this, see, mine's really laggy, it should just play. The reason it's laggy is because it's such a huge fucking file, but once you compress it, it's fine, it'll be fine. So this is all I'm going to show you right now. I'm trying to keep it short because last time it was 30-minute tutorial. And anyway, if you want to know a specific tutorial on how to do like matte transitions, some color corrections, CC lens, any type of effects, and I know how to do it, just let me know and I'll make a specific tutorial just for that, and we can go from there. But other than that, I hope this helps.